Many are wondering how Donald Trump plans on balancing the budget when he would like tax cuts for the wealthy. Well, unsurprisingly, the Trump administration is eyeing the one and only deduction that the middle class gets to take advantage of: mortgage deductions. Awesome. Now, nothing set in stone. This is just something that has been proposed, but apparently there was a White House roundtable where they were discussing balancing the budget and taxes. And unfortunately, it seems like one of the things that was suggested was doing away, not necessarily doing away, but capping, further capping the mortgage deduction that middle class individuals get to take advantage of. So despite promises from the Trump administration in April that it would, quote, protect the homeownership deductions, multiple sources tracking tax reform said that the cap on the mortgage interest deduction, currently set at the interest on up to $1 million of mortgage debt, could be lowered in tax reform. Okay, so let me break a few things down before we continue. So if you are a single tax filer, if you are a married tax filer, in most cases, the cap is already at $500,000. And so when they say the cap is at $500,000, it means that it's the value of the mortgage that you took out, the value of the loan, your outstanding debt for your mortgage. And so when you pay your mortgage, obviously you also pay interest on that loan, and that interest is tax deductible. So they essentially want to lower the cap, so it would be even more difficult for you to get more money in the form of a tax refund when you use that deduction on your taxes.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So let's say I have my house and the loan on the house is $600,000.
Right.
Now under this new rule, I wouldn't be able to deduct it?
No, so
you get the first 500,000.
The
first 500,000. So okay, and then if in some cases, if you have two mortgages, they will allow you to deduct up to 1 million. And so they want to lower it for that and potentially lower it for individuals who have one mortgage as well. Again, this is an idea that they've mentioned, but the reason why I want to report on it is because this is the one and only deduction that the middle class gets to take advantage of. They never have conversations about corporate tax loopholes, which is where the real problem is. So we'll get to that in just a second. So Trump overwhelmingly actually won a straw poll by the National Association of Realtors during its annual meeting last year, and it's because he had promised that he's not going to touch this deduction. By the way, it also impacts developers who want to build more properties, right? And so these realtors are like, just don't mess with that, because it's gonna hurt an already questionable housing market. So after tabling a 20% business tax on imported goods and services, known as border adjustability, Republicans need ways to pay for tax cuts so they can minimize the amount those cuts could add to the deficit. The Tax Foundation, a tax policy think tank, estimates that after factoring in negative economic consequences, $308 billion could be saved over the 10-year budget window Republicans are working with by lowering the mortgage deduction. But here's the thing, instead of focusing on the mortgage deduction and doing away with that one deduction that, again, the middle class gets to take advantage of, why don't we focus on corporate tax loopholes? Now, Republicans will say over and over again, oh, our corporate taxes are so high, it's like 35%, it's crippling businesses in America. First of all, a lot of those deductions and loopholes don't apply to small businesses. They apply to massive corporations that don't need those loopholes to begin with. And if you think, Anna, you're just a liberal, you don't know what you're talking about, you're nonsense, corporate taxes are super high. Here are companies that paid no federal income tax from 2008 to 2015. These are some of the top earning Fortune 500 companies that get huge tax breaks. Pepco Holdings, PG&E Corporation, Wisconsin Energy, NiSource, International Paper, First Energy, Priceline.com, Amos Energy, General Electric.
General Electric.
Yep,
They're all
American
energy companies. Look at them.
They paid nothing in federal income taxes from 2008 to 2015, and the Trump administration would like to further cut their taxes. So guess what? How about you don't touch our mortgage deductions, and actually focus on having the wealthiest corporations in the country pay their fair share of taxes. How about that?
So I have a different take on this.
All right.
Okay, so my take is this: they are correct to lower the threshold for the mortgage deduction. And here's why: most Americans can't afford to have massive homes that have a $500,000 mortgage or $1 million mortgage or that. So if they lower the threshold to $500,000, I'm okay with it. That covers most Americans anyway. Plus, they want to double the standard deductions they can take. So that really helps the vast majority of lower income, middle income Americans. Now, what I don't want them to do is to do this to pay for other tax cuts.
That's right. Yes.
They should do this and take away the deductions for wealthy homeowners. So people who are buying, multi-million-dollar homes, they don't need this deduction. They shouldn't get it.
Agreed.
But we should also leave the other tax cuts alone. I'm sorry, don't do the other tax cuts.
Right.
So we would have a bigger surplus and spend that money on other things that matter a lot more. So the way they're doing away with this deduction to fund other deductions is wrong. They should have both deductions go away.
Yes, so let me jump in. Look, I hate slippery slope arguments, and I understand that I'm about to make a slippery slope argument, but I think that it's important to be protective of the types of deductions that middle class individuals get to take advantage of. I don't even want them to touch it. Even though I completely understand that the vast majority of Americans do not have mortgages over $500,000, I don't care. I don't want them to touch this, mainly because this is not the issue that's leading to the massive deficit that we have in the country. The fact that our corporations, the top earning corporations in the country, get away with not paying any federal income taxes, that's the problem. The fact that we subsidize a lot of these companies that don't pay any federal income taxes is part of the problem. I think that that's where the focus needs to be, as opposed to individuals who are out there working hard trying to, earn enough money to buy a home.
Well, look, it's indisputable that the biggest problem we have is the corporate tax loophole, where all those corporations pay zero taxes. Totally agree on that. And then on the issue of this particular tax deduction, many people have said, and these are people on the left, that it is unfair because it allows rich people to buy up more property, consolidate more wealth, because realistically in America, the fastest way of building wealth is home ownership.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to take out $1 million mortgage and pay for it, well, that home that's worth $1 million today may not be worth $5 million tomorrow. But if you're not as rich, you take out a $100,000 mortgage, well, your home will be worth $200,000 tomorrow. So now the gap went from, it was a much bigger gap in wealth.
Yes.
So for those reasons, I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but I'm opposed to it if that is the way to fund even worse tax policy for the richest Americans.
I know Trump is no fan of Jeff Bezos. So why wouldn't, right now they're subsidizing Amazon by giving tax breaks for them to come in, undercut, because they don't pay sales tax in lots of places, right? And so what they do is they're subsidizing this company to come in to undercut their brick and mortar stores. So when they lose a brick and mortar store, they lose that tax revenue. And they're subsidizing another company to decimate their tax base. I mean, that is, to me, if you want to cut a loophole, that would be the one I would cut, right? I would try to make sure that Amazon had to pay its real taxes so it wouldn't be able to unfairly compete against brick and mortar stores and undermine people's real estate tax base. So I'm saying if you want to look at where you want to cut.
How about Walmart?
Yeah.
They are the ones who started the whole trick of giving everyone 35 hours a week so they don't get benefits. And when you apply for a job at Walmart, many times they hand you paperwork so you can get on welfare.
Yeah.
So we are literally subsidizing Walmart as an institution. Meanwhile, they have record profits and their executives earn tremendous amount of money, and the 6 Walmart heirs own as much as the bottom 40% of America. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we have a crazy system in place.
Yeah, we do, and unfortunately, we focus on attacking the powerless while the powerful literally get away with, not paying their fair share.
Yeah.
I was going to use different language, but I stopped myself.
They own our politicians, so.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it all comes down to.
Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.